Hi guys, Wonderless Odyssey here. So today I'm going to be reading a scary story called I Found Skin in the Forest on a subreddit called No Sleep. I hope you guys enjoy. Driving through Tennessee, I always took the back roads through Cherokee National Forest, which shaved a full 3 hours off my journey back to the cabin. We'd been together 30 years, Dara and me, and with the boys all grown and settled, it only seemed natural that we think of buying a place out here in the wilderness. We'd always talk about it. She was an artist and I was a writer, and we figured a log cabin was just what we needed to get the creative juices flowing. Being in our mid to late 40s, we were still relatively young, which made us think maybe we were due for a change in lifestyle. We didn't want to get too old and stuck in our ways. The cabin was a one-story lodge made of timber and stone cut from the local quarry. It stood on a high promontory that had a great view to the north and northeast, with the forest spread as far as you please. You could actually see the seasons rolling in off the mountains, and blue acres of sky sometimes made you imagine you were the last soul on earth. It was beautiful country, but desolate and wild. I drove a big pickup truck with a whole battery of LED headlights jutting out from the bull bars, and they kept the trail fully illuminated when night fell, because otherwise things get pretty dark out in the forest and I could drive for miles and never see another vehicle. I used to travel about 20 miles just to pick up the week's groceries. We lived up in a place called Wolf's Bluff, and our closest neighbor lived about 3 miles away through rough country. The nearest town, Elkwood, was a day's journey, there and back. We had to make sure we stocked up pretty good. If you ran out of something up here, you'd stay ran out until I could make the trip into town. One evening, I was on my way back from Elkwood and I was running pretty late. I like to get back to the cabin before nightfall, but I'd been delayed by a flat tire. I found myself traveling along pitch-black trails, trying not to get lost, and Dara would call me every 15 minutes or so just to make sure I was okay, and to check how long I was going to take to get home. It was 7:10 and I'd just spoken to her. I hung up the phone and was placing it on the passenger seat when I saw something dash across the trail just ahead of me. I swear to God, I thought I hit it. I slammed on the brakes and swerved the wheel, and I heard the thump and the pickup shuddered like it had just delivered some glancing blow to an animal or something. When the truck came to a stop, I jumped out and went back to see what I'd hit. I took my rifle and the flashlight with me, just in case I had to put some deer out of its misery. I was a little shaken. I kept thinking, what if I hit a person? But I didn't hit a person. I didn't hit anything. The trail was empty. I frowned and stared about me, swinging the flashlight this way and that, and listening out for the sounds of an animal in distress. But there was nothing. No scuffs or drag marks in the dirt of the trail. No blood spatter or obvious signs of injury. I went back to the truck and checked the front of the vehicle, and sure enough, there was a dent in the side, and a couple of LED lights were cracked and bent. I had hit something, and something heavy from the looks of it. But where the hell was it? I went to check one last time, shining my light in the forest as I did so. And that's when I saw something glinting way back in the dark. I stepped off the trail and into the forest, my rifle held at the ready, my flashlight trained ahead of me. "Hello?" I called out. "Is someone there?" It's hard for me to explain, but the further away I moved from the trail, the more I felt this intense sense of evil. I know this sounds crazy, and normally I'm the last person to concede the supernatural, but there was a feeling in the air. Like something inhumane was close by, watching me as I approached. Shrugging off the feeling, I continued on through the trees, and pretty soon I stepped out into a small clearing where I stopped and shone my flashlight around, frowning as I tried to figure out what I was seeing. The clearing was covered in a carpet of threadbare underbrush, a few trees scattered here and there, blackened by lightning strikes and twisted into surreal, almost proto-human shapes, and from the branches of these trees hung what looked like somebody's laundry. That's what I thought in the beginning, that somebody had come out here and draped their clothes all over the trees and the underbrush. But moving in for a closer look, a bolt of pure horror went through me when I realized these weren't clothes at all. This was human skin. I made a thin, mewling sound, the kind of sound someone makes when they're trying to wake up from a nightmare, when they know they're dreaming but they can't snap out of it. That's how I felt, like I was dreaming and I couldn't wake up. The skin had been expertly peeled off, expertly cut, expertly sewn together again. It was macabre. It was the most gruesome thing I'd ever seen. With the great skill, someone had stripped the flesh from their fellow human beings and turned it into jerseys, and gowns, and suits, and anoraks with hoods made from the skin of human faces, and I was reeling and gagging, and my mind had frozen around a half dozen words that pulsed and flared against a black backdrop. Crazy. Fuck. Jesus. Help. Run. Fast. But I couldn't retreat. I couldn't bring myself to turn back on that gruesome scene. I knew I was being watched, that I'd never make it to the vehicle if I started running, so I shone my torch around and kept my face impassive. Like I hadn't noticed the clearing was filled with costumes made out of human skin. And the more I'm trying to remain calm, the more I feel the panic swelling up inside me. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. What the hell is this? What have I stumbled into? Who the hell does this kind of thing? There must have been over a dozen costumes strung around the clearing, and some of them were still bleeding, like they'd only just been taken from their owners. I remember moving backwards through the woods, rifle held casually even though I was ready to snap it up at a moment's notice. Flashlight pointed downwards, giving the impression that I had lost interest in that clearing, and all the while I was struggling not to scream and turn tail and start running like all the hounds of hell were after me. I have never felt evil so intense as I felt in that clearing. I have never felt corruption so pure. I knew that whatever was watching me from the tree line wasn't human, and yet there's no way on earth I can explain how I knew that. It was some primitive instinct buried so deep I had no idea it even existed until that moment. Somehow I made it back to the pickup without losing my composure. Every moment I expected something to leap out of the dark with fangs bared and claws flashing, but nothing ever did. And with a wheezing sigh of relief, I started up the truck and drove slowly away. And after a while, when I judged I'd put enough distance between me and that clearing, I floored the accelerator and began to howl at the top of my voice, Jesus, oh God, oh dear Christ. I got home half an hour later, and by that time I'd somehow managed to convince myself that I only imagined that clearing and that what I had assumed was human flesh was really something else. Maybe the props for a horror movie. Maybe some kind of art project? There was certainly no advantage to telling my wife I'd just come home from the scene of some kind of massacre. I took a deep breath before entering the house, calling out, "Hi, babe," as I headed upstairs for a shower and a change of clothes. She was in the kitchen, and luckily her back was to me as she got the evening meal ready. I reckon if she'd seen my face, she would have known something was wrong. I have never been able to hide anything from Dara. I felt better after a shower. It had been stupid to suppose that was real human skin hanging out there in that clearing. If it had been, I never would have made it back to the pickup truck alive. The killer would almost certainly have attempted to silence me. I've been thinking about informing the police, just as a precautionary measure. But it all seemed pretty stupid now, and besides, I wasn't even sure I could find my way back to that clearing, even if I wanted to. I was in the bathroom changing, and I could hear Dara setting the table downstairs, and I remember thinking, if Dara is downstairs, then who the hell is lying in our bed? My mind wasn't fully functional at that stage. It was still mulling over the sight I had encountered in that clearing, still trying to decide whether I should call the cops or not. I was actually staring at this figure huddled beneath the sheets, not really reacting, and then it hit me like a ton of bricks. The sheets were soaked in blood. My heart started pounding in my chest, and a shiver of terror went right through me as I reached out and pulled the sheet down. There was a body lying beneath the sheet, but I couldn't make out any features because it looked like the skin had been peeled right off. Every goddamn inch, and there was so much blood, it looked like the body had been dipped in a vat of red paint. I turned and stumbled from the roof, half falling, half running down the stairs, screaming out for Dara, telling her to leave everything to get the hell out of the house. She came out of the kitchen just as I reached the bottom of the stairs. She was smiling at me, only it wasn't her. It was something wearing my wife's skin. I could see where the skin sagged, where it crumpled and wrinkled and didn't quite fit right. There was blood smearing the hairline and seams that ran down the side of her neck that had been sewn together. And glaring at me through the spy holes cut out of Dara's face were a pair of red demonic eyes, a black tongue licking her bloodless lips, and she was smiling. The monster was smiling through her. And Jesus Christ Almighty, it was smiling at me. And I smiled back and said, "Oh." And then I started screaming and screaming and screaming. I barely remember running from that cabin. I don't remember starting up the car or speeding away. I don't remember where I spent that night or the days and nights that followed. Everything was a blur. Everything was a dream. I only remember the terror, the image of that creature staring at me through my wife's face, her skin wrinkled and weightless as it hung like a trophy on someone else's head. And every time I close my eyes, I see that demon smiling through Dara's mouth. I'm always running these days. Motel room to motel room, beach shack to hole in the wall. I'm moving down through South America, like a stone sinking towards the bottom of the world. I'm running from the police, from my memories, from the dreams. The dreams. Every night, the same one. I'm reaching out to pull my wife's face away from that monster's. And every night, just before I reveal the true face of the monster, I wake up, cold sweat, heart going like a pair of percussion drums, and I'm moaning in terror. And one night, I finally yank my wife's face away from the monster's. And there it is, the true face of the monster. It's my own face, staring back at me. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys tune in next week because I'm gonna have more content up on my channel. But thank you guys. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. I'll be uploading more horror content on my YouTube channel soon. For now, I'll just say, bye my wanderers.